They said I was nobody, just dead weight in their perfect little business. My dad left me a voicemail. "Eric, you're out of the company. Expect a call from the lawyer." I didn't fight it. But 48 hours later, they were begging me to come back, their voices shaking, scared out of their minds. Thing is, I already knew their dirty secret, and I was holding the key that could bring it all crashing down. I'm Eric. 3 years ago, I bailed on California and moved to Salem, Oregon, trying to get out from under the chokehold of my family's construction business, Kelly Construction. It was this big, suffocating thing back in San Francisco. 800 miles away felt like my shot at a fresh start, you know? I thought I could finally breathe, build something that was mine, without their constant pressure. But man, their shadow followed me like that thick Bay Area fog. Then one day, my phone buzzes. A voicemail notification. It's Dad. My stomach drops like I just got punched. His calls are always a storm, but this one was a betrayal that ripped apart everything I thought I knew. I'm sitting on my couch in my little Salem apartment, coffee smell mixing with that crisp fall air, telling myself, maybe it's just taxes or some family reunion crap. I hit play. Dad's voice comes through, cold as the concrete on one of our job sites. "Eric," he says, no sun, no warmth, nothing. "We're restructuring the company. Me, Lindsay, and Mom decided. You're out. We'll buy your share. Expect a lawyer." Then click, like a guillotine dropping. The silence after was louder than any scream. My apartment felt like a tomb. The air just vanished. My hands were shaking, phone nearly slipping out. This cold knot in my gut spread, like barbed wire wrapping around my chest. I'm staring at the wall, gray paint I spent hours picking out to make this place mine, and it suddenly felt pointless, like everything I'd built just collapsed. They cut me out of the business I saved, out of the family I tried to hold together, out of my own damn story. Kelly Construction wasn't just some company. It was my grandpa Joseph's legacy. Dude started it in the 60s with one truck, a couple workers, and a dream to build something that'd last. I poured everything into it. Time, money, sleepless nights, fixing contracts to keep us from going under. My 35% stake? That wasn't just a number on paper. That was my blood, my sweat, my sacrifices. I skipped vacations, sold my stuff to cover their screw-ups, while they took the spotlight at ribbon cuttings for new condos and malls. To them, I was just the fix-it guy, cleaning up their messes while they smiled for business mags and grabbed awards for innovation. Grandpa split the company before he passed. 40% to Dad, 25% to Mom, 35% to me. Lindsay was off at Berkeley studying marketing, and Grandpa told me, "Eric, this is your foundation if you work for it." So I worked, skipped parties, lived in the office, learned every nuts and bolts part of the business, cement prices, delivery schedules, you name it. I could tell you the cost of rebar for a skyscraper or how many workers we needed to hit a deadline. I knew California's building codes inside out, how to dodge red tape, how to deal with unions. Lindsay came back with a degree and big ideas, but no clue how to pull them off without tanking us. Dad handled connections. Mom sweet-talked clients, and Lindsay became the face of the company, posting glossy Instagram and TikTok videos while I put out the fires they started. "Eric'll handle the numbers," Mom would say with this smile, like I was their accountant, not a co-owner. Lindsay'd chime in, "Yeah, Eric's our lifesaver," and laugh like it was a joke. But I was saving us. When the market crashed in 2018 and they overpaid for a fancy new office in San Francisco, I dumped my savings into the business, sold my car, put off buying a house, cashed out stocks I'd saved since I was a teenager working weekends on job sites. In 2019, I even pawned my old guitar, Grandpa's gift, to cover payroll after Lindsay ordered too much material for some image project, a mall that never paid off. I gave up a dream trip to Europe to pay for equipment they bought behind my back. My share was like a bottomless wallet for their mistakes, a chain holding me back every time I tried to move forward. I kept at it, hoping they'd see me as more than just the fixer. I wanted to be a partner, a son, a brother. I thought family meant trust, loyalty. That was my blind spot. Every dollar I put in was me screaming, "Do you see me? Do I matter?" But they didn't. They left me out of big meetings where Lindsay, clueless about finances, signed deals I'd have to bail out. I'd find out about contracts when suppliers called threatening lawsuits. Mom's, "Eric, this is too complicated for you," hit like a slap dressed up as concern. Lindsay'd brush me off. "Chill, Eric. We got this." They'd planned strategy behind closed doors, and I was left outside like a ghost, only useful when something broke. There was this one thing that seemed small at the time. In 2020, Lindsay pushed for a deal with some outfit called Pacific Supply. I checked them out. Barely a company, no office, no staff, no track record. I said no, but Mom was like, "Eric, don't meddle. They're strategic." I backed off, thinking I was missing the big picture. Now I see it. They were using shell companies to funnel money. My share, my cash, was propping up their scam for years. I was their shield, their lifeboat, and they decided to sink me. That voicemail from Dad, "You're out." Hope just shattered. It wasn't just getting kicked out of the business. It was a betrayal of every late night, every sacrifice, every time I put their dream over my life. I didn't answer right away. Couldn't. Just sat there, listening to the hum of my fridge and the clock ticking like it was counting down the end of my family fantasy. Why? What did I do? Or not do? Why was I suddenly disposable? 3 weeks later, I got my answer the worst way possible. I'm at a coffee shop in Salem, scrolling social media, and I see this post in a California business group. It's a photo. Mom, Lindsay, and some slick guy in a suit, all grins and handshakes. Caption: "Kelly Construction welcomes a new partner for a new era of growth. Next stop, Sacramento Housing Complex." They'd cut a deal that changed the company, messed with my share, my future, and didn't tell me squat. Me, a 35% owner, found out from the internet, sandwiched between cat videos and LA traffic memes. It wasn't just a low blow, it was a public middle finger. They didn't just cut me out. They made me look like an idiot, a puzzle piece they could toss aside. I called Mom, hands shaking as I dialed. "Oh, Eric, it happened so fast," she says, voice dripping with fake sugar. "We were gonna tell you." "Mom, this is a huge deal. I own 35%. Why wasn't I told?" She sighs, like I'm a kid whining about a toy. "Eric, you're not here. You're off in Oregon. This is complicated stuff. We handled it." Then Lindsay jumps in, her voice oozing arrogance. "Eric, you're just the numbers guy. Leave the big decisions to us. You wouldn't get it." Numbers guy. Those words burned like a hot iron. All my years, all my sacrifices, boiled down to that. I wasn't a son, a brother, a partner. I was a tool they tossed when it got inconvenient. Any hope of their respect, their love, gone. I saw them for what they were. Not just careless, but deliberately cutting me out for their own gain. They didn't just ditch me. They stole my role, my story, my place in the family. I didn't yell or beg. The Eric who'd plead for them to rethink was dead. Instead, I called my lawyer, John. "I need everything documented," I said, voice steady, but inside I was a volcano ready to blow. "Everything what?" John asks, sensing blood in the water. "Every dollar I put in, every contract I saved, every mistake I fixed." John whistles. If you've got records, Eric, this could change everything. I turned into a machine, stayed up nights digging through old emails, bank statements, contracts on an old hard drive. I built a timeline. Every time I covered their debts, every check I wrote to save their asses. I remembered selling my car in 2019 to pay suppliers after Lindsay's image project flopped. Skipping a Mexico vacation to cover payroll, pawning Grandpa's guitar to pay for equipment they bought without telling me. My records were a map of my sacrifices, dates, amounts, reasons. But the deeper I dug, the shadier it got. Numbers didn't add up. Payments to suppliers who didn't exist. Sketchy transfers to offshore accounts labeled consulting fees. This wasn't just sloppy bookkeeping. It smelled like corruption. And I started thinking their rush to boot me and bring in a new partner wasn't just greed. They were hiding something big, something that could tank not just the business, but their whole lives. I remembered this weird thing from 2021. Lindsay pushed to hire some consultant, David Reynolds. Never met the guy, but his name kept popping up in company emails. His services cost hundreds of thousands, but I never saw a report justifying it. I asked Lindsay who he was, and she brushed me off. Eric, it's for big deals. You're not in the loop. Now I looked him up. Found an article about a Nevada construction firm tied to money laundering. Reynolds was named as a person of interest. My pulse spiked. This wasn't just a mess. It was a scheme, and Lindsay and Mom were neck-deep. I showed John my findings. He leans back, rubbing his chin. Eric, this is big. If we find more, this isn't just a family fight. It's criminal. He hooked me up with Western Capital, a private investment group in Seattle that deals with messy family businesses. I met their manager, Mark, in their slick office overlooking Puget Sound. Glass walls, steel vibes, pure power. I laid it all out. My 35% stake, years of bailing them out, getting kicked out, the social media post about the new partner. I showed my records, not accusing, just laying out facts like the numbers guy they thought I was. There's potential here, Mark says, eyes gleaming like a predator. But we need to dig deeper. If your records hold up, this could be bigger than a family spat. Their team audited fast. They cross-checked my notes with Kelly Construction's official books. My records of past crises I'd fixed suddenly carried weight. They didn't just find mistakes. They found fraud. Fake contracts with non-existent subcontractors. Inflated invoices for materials that never hit the sites. Offshore transfers disguised as consulting. But that was just the start. Mark called a week later. Eric, we found more. Your records led us to payments tied to a Panama company. This isn't sloppy accounting. It's money laundering. My world tilted. Money laundering? My family. The people I shared Thanksgiving turkey with, laughed over Grandpa's old photos with. But the evidence didn't lie. My boring spreadsheets were their undoing. Then it got wilder. Mark's team found ties between Kelly Construction and a state senator getting kickbacks for juicy municipal contracts, schools, hospitals. That's why they rushed to ditch me. I was too close, too meticulous to not spot their scam. The day I sold my share came. I'm in John's Portland office, signing papers to hand my 35% to Western Capital. The scratch of the pen was quiet, but it shattered everything tying me to my family. It wasn't a win. It was grief for the family business I dreamed of, fear of their reaction, and this cold resolve. I played by their rules, but on my terms. I didn't just sell my share, I unleashed the beast they woke up. I sent Mom a one-word reply to her voicemail. Understood. Quietest message, loudest meaning. I knew the investors would hit Mom and Lindsay soon, announcing the new co-owner and digging into the books. I tried to live my life, go to work, grab coffee with my neighbor Matt. But every call, every notification jolted me like a defibrillator. I was waiting for the storm. It hit on day 2. My phone blew up. Mom, Lindsay, their office line. 10 missed calls, then 25, 50, 72. Texts poured in. Confused. Eric, what's happening? Panicked. You sold your share? Then accusing. How could you do this to us? I picked up Lindsay's call. Her usual smug tone was gone, shaky like a leaf in the wind. Eric, what did you do? You gotta fix this. Please, undo it. Undo what, Lindsay? I said, calm, almost scary, calm. The sale. These investors, they froze everything. They're digging through the books, saying they found problems. Their audit, fueled by my records, exposed the truth. It wasn't just bad bookkeeping. Lindsay and Mom hid millions in debt, siphoning money through fake accounts to fake prosperity. The new partner was their desperate bid to plug the hole with fresh cash without spilling the truth. But my records, my numbers guy obsession, brought them down. The investors found fake contracts, kickbacks for inflated bids, even traces of offshore money laundering. They froze the company and demanded a full audit. Problems, I said, letting her panic hang. That's their right, Lindsay. They own 35% now, like I did. But you said I was out. Said I was just the numbers guy. Said you'd handle it without me. Eric, you don't get it, she screamed, voice cracking. They could ruin everything. You ruined it yourselves, I said, and hung up. The calls didn't stop. Mom tried guilt. How could you do this to us, Eric? We're family. Lindsay flipped between threats and begging. We'll sue you. Then please, Eric, talk to them. I stayed firm. Everything went through John. I didn't want to hear their voices, their excuses. They made their choice, and I made mine. Then, a week later, I got a letter. Not from them, not from the investors, from Tom, an old foreman who worked with Grandpa back in the 80s. He wrote, Eric, I knew what they were doing. I stayed quiet to keep my job, but your records gave me courage. I gave the investors documents you didn't have. Tom had been collecting proof of their scams for years. He saw Mom and Lindsay manipulate accounts, funnel money to shell companies, inflate contracts. He kept copies of deals, emails, even photos of checks they tried to shred. His evidence was the final nail. The investors sued for fraud and money laundering. The business teetered on bankruptcy, and the family's reputation was toast. But there was another twist. A month later, I got an anonymous letter with a screenshot of an internal Kelly construction document from a year before my ouster. It was a plan to restructure my share and hand it to that new partner from the photo. They didn't just want me out. They'd been planning it for years, using my money to keep the business afloat until they found a buyer willing to pay more. My share was their trump card, and they were gonna buy it from me for pennies. I gave the document to John. He grinned like a cat with a mouse. Eric, this isn't just fraud. It's a conspiracy. We can't just defend you, we can counter-sue. And we did. The lawsuit hit Mom, Lindsay, and their new partner, who knew about the debts but banked on quick profits before the collapse. The case blew up in California's business scene. Headlines screamed, Son versus Family, Construction Giant Faces Fraud. Lindsay tried to save face, calling me a bitter traitor in interviews. But the truth, my records, Tom's documents, was undeniable. Then another curveball. During the trial, info surfaced about Grandpa's old friend, Mr. Henderson, a minority shareholder who left in the 90s. He reached out through John with old financial reports showing Mom, then a young accountant, was already fudging numbers back then. Grandpa probably didn't know, but his trust in her laid the groundwork for her schemes. That flipped everything. I thought the betrayal started with the new partner, their greed. But it went deeper. They'd been building this lie for decades, using my trust, my belief in family, to cover their tracks. I wasn't just the numbers guy. I was their shield, their lifeboat, and they sank me. It didn't stop there. A San Francisco Chronicle reporter called, digging into corruption in California's construction industry. He'd found our case and linked Kelly Construction to a state senator getting kickbacks for school and hospital contracts. Mom and Lindsay paid him through shell companies. I didn't comment but sent him Tom's documents. The article dropped like a bomb. Family Empire Probed: Corruption and Kickbacks in Construction. 3 months later, a woman named Sarah, a former Kelly Construction accountant from the 2000s, reached out. She'd quit over ethical issues and kept proof of Mom's number fudging from back then. My story in the news gave her the guts to share. She sent a flash drive with reports proving the fraud started in the 90s. It wasn't just greed. It was a system they built, exploiting Grandpa's trust, my trust, everyone's. I handed the drive to John. We filed a new lawsuit for long-term fraud. The case got huge, drawing FBI attention. Mom and Lindsay faced probes for fraud, tax evasion, and ties to corrupt officials. Kelly Construction was done, their reputation shredded. Then, one last twist. The FBI found evidence Mom and Lindsay tried bribing witnesses to lie for them. One witness, a former employee, refused and gave John recordings of their talks. Those tapes were the knockout punch. They didn't just lose the business, they faced criminal charges that could mean jail time. The fallout hit hard. Some relatives bought Mom and Lindsay's story that I betrayed the family for cash. My Aunt Carol, always a drama queen, sent a long letter blaming me for ruining Grandpa's legacy. Uncle Frank's called saying, "Eric, you played dirty. Family's sacred." But others, who knew how much I gave, stayed quiet, or quietly had my back. My cousin Jake, who'd left the business over their games, called and said, "Eric, you did what I couldn't. I'm proud of you." My real support, John, friends outside the family, reminded me family isn't just blood. It's respect, trust, care. My neighbor Matt, who I'd grab beers with, said, "Eric, they didn't see you, but we do. You're not alone." Those words kept me going. Healing's been slow. I grieved not just my share, but the family I thought I had. There were angry moments when I wanted to scream at Lindsay, doubtful moments when I wondered if I went too far. But their words, numbers guy, that voicemail, that social media post, kept me steady. I set boundaries. No calls without recording, everything through John, no rehashing the past. It was tough, especially with Mom. Her voice still tugged at me, but it was necessary. The family I wanted wasn't real. They never saw me as equal, just a tool they used and ditched. I started consulting in Salem, helping small businesses with finances. The skills they mocked became my foundation. I bought a little house by the Willamette River, a place where I can breathe. Found friends who see me, not my money or role. Matt's like a brother now, the real kind, not the backstabbing kind. Being the numbers guy isn't weakness, it's power. My records, my truth, flipped their game. I lost the business and the family illusion, but gained freedom. Signing those papers was my declaration of independence, not the ending I wanted, but the start of my story. Standing in my home, river flowing outside, I know I made the only choice I could. Sometimes, the hardest lines you draw are with the people you love most. Sometimes, truth is all you've got. I don't regret my move. I only regret the years I spent chasing their love. But now, I'm free, and that's worth everything. What would you do if you were in my shoes? Let me hear your take.